So hey, welcome to the 10-10 movement. You're here with myself, Tony V. And remember, the 10-10 movement is about moving areas of your life where you're somewhat struggling to becoming more successful. Now, what I call living more of a 10 out of 10 life experience. Now, if there was one big thing that causes the human population to struggle more than anything else, it's a 6-letter word that we're all familiar with, but actually we're not very good with dealing with it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share what that 6-letter word is, and I'm going to share the biggest way that you can overcome this challenge. Now, there's lots of ways to overcome the challenge and move towards a more successful life, but actually it all starts with one big thing. So, what is the 6-letter word? The 6-letter word is stress. Yeah, stress. Now, before you turn off, trust me, nearly all humans, and that probably includes yourself and myself, us collectively, almost all of us struggle with stress way more than we think we are. Because what's happened is stress has become what I call the norm. In other words, it's become the accepted way of being. So we're living in stress without realising we're living in stress. We're thinking that the stressful experience is now the normal experience. So why is that happening? So look, the key thing, I guess, is that the human has developed this part of itself completely without realising. It sort of happened over a very, very long but slow period of time. And what we've done is we've sort of handed it down through the generations. So what actually has happened is the humans, unlike almost any other creature on the planet, has developed what's known as an ego self. Yeah, so the ego always gets a bit of a bad rap and people go, oh, well, he's got a bit of an ego. But that's not really what the ego self is all about. Your ego self is like a protection system. And what it does is it works in a way that sort of keeps us somewhat imprisoned. So just think about it. If you do this, you're very likely to be stressed. So if, for example, you are looking for proof and evidence, or if there was one big word you might be looking for, it might be certainty. In other words, you won't do anything unless you're certain it's all going to work out okay. So why do we do that, and what's going on? Well, it's sort of like, I call it become part of our operating system. But we've got two operating systems. We've got what we call the normal one, the real one, what I call sometimes the real us. And then we've got our emergency operating system. Now, our emergency operating system is our ego self. And the way that works differently to the way we're meant to work, this becoming now normalised, is that it checks back. So if there's something in front of us that we want to do. So just think about if you want to do, let's say make a buying decision. Like you're going to buy something big, a car or a house. As you tend to look at that, you start to work out logically. We use this part of our brain to start working out whether this is a good idea or not. Now, what we're doing, and what the ego self does, is it looks back unconsciously into the past. It's like your brain's got this sort of hard drive, like a computer. And so it searches in the past if anything bad has happened to you in certain circumstances that you need to be aware of. Now, it does this in like milliseconds. It then projects that into the future onto your buying decision, and it will help you then decide whether you're going to move forward or not. Now, what it's really looking for is there anything in the past that's got like a negative tag that if I were to do this would give me some pain or some problems, in which case what the ego does is it goes, look, just stop, and it prevents you moving towards what perhaps you really want to have happen. So this operating system, I hope I've described it well there, yeah? So it checks in with things that are in the past, it projects them into the future, and it sees if there's any perceived danger. Now, of course, this danger is illusionary, it hasn't happened yet, and that is what makes us feel stressed. This looking in the past, going into the future. Just see if you can become aware of yourself doing that, because if you're doing that, you are stressed. And I promise you that every human that I meet, including myself, still runs that system of protection. It's not like the ego's a baddie. What it's trying to do is trying to keep you safe. But in doing it, it stops us moving forward. So it stops us being successful. It's like, because fear is sort of in our way. So imagine being the natural self, the real human, who's not using this emergency system 24/7 to protect itself, but lives more in what we call in the moment. In which case, when it's moving towards making a decision, it's good with the opposite of trying to be certain. So it's good with the opposite, which is it's good with the uncertainty. So somebody who's being more natural, and you'll notice more successful people do this, they just move towards things. Now, I'm not saying they don't do some logical due diligence, but basically they're good with moving towards things, knowing that when they move towards it, whatever happens, they believe in themselves, inside themselves, that they will be able to deal with it. Whereas the ego system is really looking in the past, and then it's making comparisons, looking in the future, and it's trying to work it out, but it works it out based on a negative. Whereas the real you doesn't do that. So we have to sort of our first way to overcome stress, really. I mean, yes, there's loads of strategies, breathing things, there's things you can buy that will de-stress you. There's things to understand about your internal physiological part of you, which is how your heart and your brain interact with each other. But before you do any of that, the very first step to overcoming stress is to become aware of how you operate. Are you operating in a more, what I tend to use the word, a red way, red being the international colour for danger? Or are we operating in a more green way, which, green means like in the traffic light system, for example, it means green means let's go. Whereas red means, hold on a minute, let's stop. So just becoming aware of whether or not you are running an egoic pattern or whether you're running a more live in the moment, knowing that whatever happens, you're safe anyway. You're not in any danger, yeah? Now, I'm not saying do this when there is real danger. I always say, look, if there was a saber-toothed tiger coming towards you, that is when we're meant to use our egoic self, because that's where we need to sort of evaluate very quickly. Do I need to run away? It's the fight and flight system. Do I need to run away, or do I need to stand and fight? That system has become the operating system of the everyday human, and that is what holds us back from being successful. So there you go, how stress holds you back from being successful, and knowing that if you could live with a certain amount of uncertainty, the more uncertainty you can live with, the more likely you are to be successful, as long as you have a belief inside of yourself that whatever happens, you will be able to deal with it. So that's it from me, Tony V. If you're new to the 1010 movement, it's the first video you ever watched, big welcome. Please do hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if it's been useful to you, please share it with your family and friends. There's the old share button there. Just share it with everybody that you know. Now, on the channel also is a plethora of other personal and spiritual development videos with small tips and tricks in there that will help you move your life to be more of a 10 out of 10. So yeah, please enjoy the channel. I'm going to pop a couple of videos up here now, which you just have to click, and you're back into the next one where you can do some more learning. So from me, Tony V, see you on the next video. Bye for now.